The rules for 40k for the last 10 editions are awful. In these videos, I'm going to show you why and what we did instead. My entire playgroup and I studied and practiced games design ourselves for 4 years to bring you this video and the best version of 40k. Last video, we talked about I go, you go versus alternating activations, and then laid out our design goals that would help guide us towards the best possible version of 40k. And now we can start looking at the core rules through this lens. The entire turn structure of 40k doesn't need to be like this. You have a command phase, you have the movement phase, you have a shooting phase, you used to have a psychic phase, you used to, oh my god, forget this. Once you are in the alternating activations universe, all your units are doing all of these things in the same turn. So you can combine 4 of these phases into 2, move and attack. But how can you combine the 2 movement phases? One of them is the charge roll. Charge rolls are the biggest pain point in 40k for a lot of people. Everyone knows intuitively as gamers that there is something wrong about it. Charge rolls are one of the reasons that I started this whole project, to find out why it feels awful. This is why. The term to know is input versus output randomness. Output randomness is where the randomness happens after you make a choice, and input randomness is before you make a choice. Games like Magic the Gathering or poker have a lot of input randomness, where situations are drawn up from a deck or however, and you solve them, but your actions in response to the situation are not randomized. Games like 40k World of Tanks and XCOM have a lot of output randomness, where you are in control of what you are doing, but you don't know exactly how effective your actions will be. So you have to account for this risk of failure in the things you can control, which is like your movement. You want to be able to shoot someone, but you want to be behind cover just in case it doesn't work. The trap that many games fall into with output randomness is when an extremely impactful decision has a random output. It feels horrible when it fails. In 40k, the game asks you which unit to charge. Now there's an expectation set. When the roll fails, that's a betrayal of expectations. And then the worst possible thing happens. Nothing. The game state doesn't progress at all. What was the point of picking my charge target? That's why it feels like your choices are not meaningful. Not to mention the catastrophic consequences for your unit now, who will be gunned down where they stand at no fault of your own whatsoever. Having analyzed the current state of charge rolls, we can fix it. Hopefully, without making a huge mistake which would take a year to fix. The first thing we did was remove randomness from movement entirely. If you know exactly what the threat range is of your opponent's units, you can use your movement to basically guarantee that you can't be shot at, can't be damaged, can't be anything. If you think about what we want for a quick game, for a good game, for a fun game, from a sort of top-down level, what do we actually want the units to do? Interact. We want them to crash into each other and chop each other to pieces. Nobody's going home until the models are off the board, so we would prefer it if you couldn't guarantee non-interaction. That is where randomized movement comes in. If the exact amount of movement the unit can do is slightly randomized, you can't exactly predict exactly where the threat range of the charge roll is. That usually means that players will opt for more interaction. They'll go within range with their guns, but stay at the maximum range to make the charge as hard as possible. So you have to account for this risk. Whereas before, if you knew exactly how difficult, where the charge threat range was, you could go way inside of the range with your guns and then just be like, oh, your charge range is 12 inches, my gun's 24-inch range, but you can't catch me, so I'm just going to stand at 13 inches, it's fine. The trick is, where do you put the randomization on movement? Because charge rolls is horrible and it's after you make your move. It's before you move. It's before. That's input randomness. It changes what you might do when you find out how much movement you have for the turn. This also has the added benefit of obscuring exactly what you can do to your opponent, who can no longer stand at 18.1 inches and be completely safe. How about charging itself? You know, if there's no charge roll, how do I charge? Well, what if with your normal movement, you could just go into melee? What if during your normal move, you just go into melee and then you go to attacks and you shoot all your guns and you swing with all your swords all at the same time? Congratulations, you've just combined the fight phase into the shooting phase and the charge phase into the movement phase. We are down 2 phases. I forgot to talk about something. Let's not forget the deployment phase, which we also removed, saving like an hour's worth of time every game. You can just activate a unit, set it up in the deployment zone, and walk out of it as part of its turn. And then you just do that over and over and over again, battle round 1, and it just shaves off an hour, by the way.